Herzlich willkommen zu diesem gemeinsamen Music Pool Berlin Music Commission Talk, den wir gemeinsam hier organisiert haben. Für diejenigen, die Music Pool Berlin nicht kennen, das ist ein Projekt, welches kostenlose Beratung und Weiterbildung und solche Abendveranstaltungen wie hier für Musikerinnen und Musiker in Berlin anbieten. Und wenn ihr dazu mehr wissen wollt, könnt ihr mich und meine Kollegen hier vorne nachher gerne ansprechen. Und wir geben auch eine Newsletterliste rum, da könnt ihr euch auch gerne eintragen. Jana?
Ja, hallo, mein Name ist Jana Ramno, ich arbeite für die Berlin Music Commission und wir freuen uns sehr, dass ihr alle da seid und danke auch nochmal an die Music Pool Berlin, dass wir diese schöne Veranstaltung heute Abend organisiert haben. Die Berlin Music Commission ist ein Netzwerk für Musikwirtschaftsunternehmen und wir vernetzen die Leute untereinander und machen verschiedene Projekte hier in der Stadt. Genau.
Zum Ablauf, es gibt jetzt, also nach diesem Talk, den ich auch gleich vorstellen werde, werden wir alle gemeinsam zu einem Empfang herübergehen in die Networking Area. Das ist ganz auf der anderen Seite des Republika-Geländes und da können wir einfach alle zusammen hingehen und dort gibt es dann auch Bons für Freigetränke und so, gesponsert von der BMC. Und Musik. Es lohnt sich dann, sich an uns zu halten. Genau. Und genau. And then let me introduce the speakers for tonight, Steffen Holly and Blanning. And the topic will be blockchain and music and the potential that the blockchain technology can play for the music business. And I'm really curious what you're going to talk about because I actually don't know so much on the topic. So
a warm welcome.
Take the stage.
Thanks everybody for coming. My name is Blanning. I'm a music journalist and I'm here with Steffen Holly, who is actually representing the Fraunhofer Institute. I'm sure that you all are aware of the Institute, most notably in regards to music as that's where the tech for the MP3 came out of. So today's discussion though is auspiciously on the day when Satoshi Nakamoto is being claimed as Australian entrepreneur Craig Wright, although obviously that's yet to be completely confirmed. We're here to talk about the blockchain. So I think with, even though this technology's been around for a few years now, we have to start with a basic explanation of the blockchain. So maybe if you lead us off with that, so, Steffen.
First of all, hello, Steffen Holly. That's right, I'm from Fraunhofer Institute. Glad to see you all here, interested in the blockchain technology. I'm also not the deep diving guy going to this technology, but I understand quite a little bit of that. And of course, as an institute, just like Fraunhofer, we are doing research on that as well. So the blockchain is, I think, a quite simple concept of, it's collecting transactions in the block. And then, together with a timestamp, you spread this to a global network of globalized, global computer network. And so you create more blocks on the chain. We all have the same information. That is quite a simple principle. Additional to this, every block you create has a so-called hash, which is a kind of a digital fingerprint, which links directly to the previous block. So you can imagine if the chain of computers growing and all have the same information, it's a really transparent organization of data you can have. So it's, of course, well known, used in Bitcoin because you can use this for not only for transaction of money, but also of transaction of metadata. And that's maybe the point where the entertainment industry is maybe interested in that technology as well. That is the reason why everybody is trying to get some information about that, I'm assuming.
One of the main points about blockchain as it's used in Bitcoin, which is really the only application that we know it in use so far, is it's completely anonymous, but every transaction, as you say, is transparent, and all the transactions are verified. They can't be entered into the blockchain until they're agreed upon by the network. So there's a consensus, but although you can identify the address of the users, no one knows who might actually hold that address. And the other thing is that the information is, once it's in the blockchain, you can't alter it, supposedly. So that's another reason why the blockchain technology would be incredibly useful as a completely public, transparent ledger. Now, one of the big selling points of the blockchain currently is that it's touted as being decentralized. So in the current music industry climate, not really. That seems like it wouldn't really work, because music intellectual property is so proprietary. So how do you reckon? Maybe the easiest question to start with is, what's the first most obvious application for it? Who would be implementing the blockchain specifically for music? Would it be, for instance, labels, or would it be artists?
I think the problem is not that it's in general colliding with the propriety aspect, because if you're looking to the financial industry, they have a lot, because money is propriety. If money belongs to me, it's an asset, and they putting millions and millions of dollars in research of the blockchain technology. So it's not, the question is not that it's in general it's a propriety right which may be affected. The problem is more that it's in general transparency. So it demands transparency, and that's the problem, I think, which has the entertainment industry to learn about. Because if you're looking to the market participants, they are not working together just like the participants in the financial industry. They have, for instance, built a centralized clearinghouse where millions and billions of transactions every day are going through, if you're thinking about credit cards. So they already have established such a thing. They have agreed that there is something in between which has to clear transactions. And this principle is not known in the media, especially in the music industry. So you have a lot of people who are sharing information, not sharing information, and they're sitting on their own silo of data. Mm-hmm. I think that has to be a change in paradigm in general. As long as you're not going to share your data with somebody else, you don't have to think about the blockchain technology. So you can do whatever you want as long. So if you're not going to change this paradigm, you can leave it as it is.
Right. That leads me to think that this sort of transparency is something that, for instance, major labels would never really want to participate in, because they actually employ a lot of schemes that may not be obvious to the public to up the sales of any particular release by, for instance, when a distributor will sell units to record shops, they will ship X amount of units for free so that the record shop's only paying for a certain amount of units, but it ups the number of units shipped, if you understand my meaning. So,
yeah, but I think the problem is not that there is this saying, you can name a bad guy, mm-hmm. because you can't say that the major labels are the bad guys. So in this system, in this ecosystem of services, lawyers, distributions, copyright authorities, labels, artists, distributors, and sub-distributors, this whole ecosystem, somebody is talking to somebody else and saying, just let's share this data. And then this guy says, okay, we can share this data, and the other guy says no. Oh, and then they this guy who wants to share the data goes in another situation, and then he said to another guy, oh, I don't want to share this data, and this other guy will share. So you can't name the bad guy. So this is always changing.
Yeah.
And that's very, very difficult. And I think that the people had no, the time is not right, that they really discovered that the data has to flow in between. So that's not the question that they have to open up all the silo for all data, but they can agree of a set of data which has to be common between everybody, and that's not happened at the moment. And as long as that is not happen, you don't have to think about the blockchain and the music industry.
Okay, well, if we want to pursue the idea of the blockchain in the music industry, one of the, obviously the internet is the conduit for connectivity, and this is how it's really changed our world. And within the music industry already, the internet alone, not even speaking about the blockchain, but has enabled any artist to have a direct link to their fans, to their audience. Yeah. Effectively cutting out a middleman, especially websites like Bandcamp, SoundCloud, etc. So now peer-to-peer is again another touted benefit of blockchain. Yeah. So maybe the route would be as actually an alternative financial music industry outside of the existing structures. That's I think exactly what will happen. So if you're looking to the people who are acting in that blockchain technology, they are not want to solve the problems of the whole industry, which is called the metadata disaster. It can be solved automatically by introducing a technology like blockchain to this disaster. It won't happen. But just like artists like Radiohead or Imogen Heap, they are trying to do little steps with just with one release and trying out if something is working in this peer-to-peer technology for them. So creative artists outside of the traditional existing distribution silos will create maybe a little environment, and they find out what will work. And this maybe will grow, but then they have also to agree that there has to be a shared set of data, of course. But the change will come from outside. The change will not come from inside the industry. This is right. It'll I mean, we see this replicated in all sorts of industries, not just the music industry. But well, maybe one of the ways that this could happen on this personal level is to start out with. Obviously, let's completely factor out physical music, CDs, records, and let's talk only about digital music, because that's the easiest way to think about. The easiest way to think about transactions being authenticated via blockchain is that these are digital transactions. Yeah. Now, one of the things that you had mentioned earlier is the idea of a sort of a bit of it sounded like a bit of a timeshare of music.
Timeshare?
Yeah, where you would own this music for a certain period of time and.
Yeah. Not for timeshare, but it's you can. I think it's the idea of somebody who is creating a kind of a collaborative sphere where people can found something where they can financing artists together until a level, then they own the music, something like that. But one of the things which we also have to keep in mind is that the blockchain is only a basic technology. So there is already the next iteration of that technology ready to use. It's blockchain on steroids. It's Ethereum. It was done by a Russian guy, Vitaly Buterin. His company is already worth, I think, 1 billion. And he put an application layer on this registering technology where you can combine the registration with a smart contract. So a contract which is readable by machine. So you can, just like a record contract, you can digitize the contract into the numbers, crunching is down, that the machine can read this contract. So you could already combine registering and until to the payment. So it's already, this is something which is working already, so could work.
Okay, that's something else that I had read as being another possible application of blockchain is that it would have a record not just of just transactions, but actual larger data such as contracts and stuff like that. Although it's on a person-to-person, not if you're speaking not about artists and labels, but more between maybe artists and people. I'm not sure how that would be necessary, I guess, but tell me more about what you were talking about, like a sort of a, you mentioned it not being so much a timeshare, but a crowdsourcing perhaps? Or in terms of helping an artist to make something?
Yes,
not a Kickstarter.
I don't have something really specific in mind that you really could use from start. So I'm more looking into the overall blockchain technology. So for instance, there are a lot of, I met some people at South by Southwest in Austin, and which telling you that, oh, we have solved the metadata problem of the music industry because we can build everything on blockchain. And then you think about, oh, maybe you don't know, only one tiny problem they may have. You can't solve every problem. And then you're going back and have a look at that technology and doing something like only solving a tiny problem. So a lot of people jumping around and saying we can solve the problem, but the problem won't be saved by a simple technology alone. So you have to think about if you're really changing or exchanging your data with somebody else, who would benefit while you're exchanging data, what will change in general. So this is something you have to think before you're trying to use this technology. So technology won't save something if you don't think about the application, what's behind that. So that's also very important.
Well, one of the things that's interesting about the blockchain is that it's a permanent record. It sets something in stone. But one of the things that's interesting about the internet, especially in terms of a recent release, Kanye West's The Life of Pablo, is that he seems to be constantly changing this release. This release is constantly updating. So if on one hand an artist like Kanye West is changing what might actually constitute an album, maybe that goes against what the blockchain is useful for. If one of the benefits of digital music is that you can constantly have a release that's changing slightly as time goes on versus something that is set in stone.
But when you're registering a song, for instance, in a blockchain, then you're registering maybe the rights as well. And if you're altering the song, then you can also link the same blockchain to the altered song if you have the same rights included. If you not have the same rights included, you're opening up a new blockchain. So I think it's not difficult to handle that. So, and also, which most people don't know, that you can also have a private blockchain. So for instance, the financial industry will create a blockchain which is not open to everybody. So it's also possible in general, just thinking theoretically, if the music industry would invest itself in blockchain technology, it would be able to invest in a closed silo for them, which works only for maybe the major players or something like that. So it's also possible. But you don't have to open up this to everybody, but you have to open up to everybody who is working on that system. So then it will be transparent to the little artist who is registering the song firsthand. Then it goes to publisher, then it goes to a little small label who's licensing to the major label. The major label is licensing this to the distributor, and so on. And all these territories, it's possible to do this inside this. You don't have to open up this to the general public. You can keep it in your universe. That's also what people don't understand.
Yeah. So of course there could be a public blockchain, and there could be a
it could be a public
one too.
blockchain as well.
And not only that, but the whole idea being that the blockchain could keep records of all of the changes that are made to anything actually. But because ultimately the blockchain is, in terms of music, it sounds like it's really just the ledger. In terms of money, it is the money. But it is the Bitcoin. Bitcoins are the blockchain. But in terms of the music exists outside of the blockchain, doesn't it?
Yes.
So it actually makes it a different thing. But also, music is for the most part, once you take away physical objects, music is endlessly replicatable. So why does it matter about keeping records of who buys what? And will that affect piracy at all? Or how would it affect piracy? Whereas, like, for instance, I could understand wanting to keep a very distinct, specific ledger in terms of who owns a one-off artwork, physical artwork, for instance. But in terms of an MP3, maybe it doesn't matter so much. But really the question is how does this relate to piracy as we know it, in terms of people trading MP3s, giving each other MP3s? None of that would show up on the blockchain, so it wouldn't really. I guess I'm wondering what the point is.
Yeah, that is of course as the blockchain technology is not solving the metadata disaster of the music industry. It's also not solving the piracy problem. But if you would register your rights inside the blockchain, and you are working with this technology inside the music industry, just as a theory, then you can also invite your distributors, your online services, to check these rights. So automatically, so you invite them, and they can immediately see what kind of rights they could use in their territory. So you don't have to work with the army of lawyers. So that's the biggest problem in the music industry when you're starting an online service. So I did it some years ago, and it's really a work which I never will do in my life again, because it's so frustrating to talking all these people about music rights. And if it would be automatically available, that you just registering as a trusted service in the blockchain, you can get all the metadata, and you have clean metadata, you have rights which you can really use from scratch, or you see what you cannot use, then it would be really very easy to start with a music service with a certain kind of content which is registered in the blockchain. That's, in theory, very, very good, but before that, everybody has to agree to put it into this.
Right. All music that people are going to want access to, anything that's not completely niche, would probably need to sign up to a shared blockchain, to a distributed network. Which I suppose some, philanthropist, music lover could start, but really it's probably something that more a copyright agency would be responsible for, from the sound of it.
Yeah. So I only know one company in the music business who is not operating with blockchain, but they have this mindset to open up their data to artists and to all rights holders which are included into a musical work. This is Cobalt Music. So if you're working with them, you really get a lot of data nearly in real time. So this is something you don't get with any other company in the music business. So they are trying to. They don't use blockchain, but they have already the mindset of opening up their data and sharing it with their customers, because their customers are not only the guys who are selling the music, their customers also the rights holders. So they are working to both sides, quite transparent. And that's a huge step forward.
Yeah.
But it's only one company I know, so maybe you know some more companies from that as well.
Well, I mean, speaking of that, there is actually there is a company. It's called Openledger, and they've joined up with the Danish Bitcoin exchange CCEDK and are joining forces with Muse to make a music-tailored blockchain. So now, this is pretty much exactly what we're talking about. This is blockchain technology working specifically for the music industry.
Did they define what is the special thing of a music-tailored blockchain?
Well,
so
I've
tried to get that, but I was not able to find that what was really tailored for the music industry.
You know, I've read this article, which was published in Forbes in January of this year. So I don't know whether this article was published before the launch of this company or after the launch of this company, but suffice it to say that there's not enough data yet to really know how it's doing. But it reads as though it's a fancy subscription / online store, much in the same way as Apple Music or otherwise.
I assume that's just a simple marketing for making themselves interesting or something like that. If you really don't get it, what they are talking about, the music-tailored blockchain, what is music-tailored blockchain?
They are one of the things that they're selling.
Making suits for musicians or something like that.
Well, one of the things that they're using as their advertising is that the artists would actually receive a high percentage of sales income, as in more than 90% of the sales would go directly to the artist, which is pretty much the Bandcamp model. But although Bandcamp actually are working more in the realm of 15 and 10%. So I'm assuming this means that they're working directly with artists, and this was to try to get artists to sign up with them. Now the problem I thought with this article is Peer Tracks is basically you have to use their cryptocurrency in order to use this service. And that I see that as being a bit of a stumbling block, because it's one thing to be fascinated by cryptocurrency, and it's quite another to actually invest in a cryptocurrency. But their cryptocurrency would be tied to the US dollar, so. And they're saying that if you were paid in their currency, then you would be able to use their currency with anywhere that accepts a debit card. So it's still a bit murky, though. We're still in early days here. I feel as though the blockchain is technology that could potentially change the face of money. It's already in the process of changing the face of money, but I'm having it's still blurry how it could change the face of music as effectively as it's doing for money.
Yeah, there's only, I think, one thing very important is that we all make clear or get it in our head. That's really in a data-driven world. It's music, movement of music, and money has to be frictionless. So that's very, very important. But it isn't. But as soon as you combine music with a cryptocurrency, then you're moving away from mainstream and making your music available, because most of the people don't own the cryptocurrency wallet, so that's not changing that much. And we are still in the early days. And if you want to try out something, it's better maybe to use something. Last Friday, IBM has announced that they are going to release a beta version of a blockchain as a service. So whenever you have some people in your company trying to think about trying out something with blockchain. Then you go to IBM and trying out what their API are doing with your registering your metadata, that you get a feeling of that, and not going with companies approaching you, we won't solve your problem, and you use it together with a cryptocurrency. So first try to understand what type of problem could be solved with this technology. And then it's good if a company just like the Big Blue, IBM, is offering this as a service for trying out. This is something you can work just with 1 or 2 developers and you're getting just the idea quite quickly. And if you have the right idea, develop this step by step, then you may find a business model which is not seen until now. And also, which is very important, these following technology where I was talking about Ethereum, which puts the application layer on the blockchain technology, it's also not that secure. So they are not secure just like the underlying blockchain technology. It's a version which came out, and it's not bulletproof. So they have to prove their security against hackers and all that kind of stuff. So it's really, really early, and that's why if you want to solve something in the music industry, then you should concentrate on music first. That's also quite nice. So that's moving people at the moment and for the next years. But if you want to try out something, if you really want to know what's behind that, then try to figure out just a little problem and see what this technology could do for you, and not going with the big gun onto the little birds, or how we in Germany say, mit Kanonen auf Spatzen schießen. That's not necessary in that case.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like in a lot of ways that that obviously music's not the problem, but it's really the music industry is the problem. So and
that's also the big difference. You don't have to combine the problem of the music with the problem of the music industry. So even if the music industry won't survive as it is today, the music will survive. That's for sure.
Right. Agreed. Yeah, music will survive, and it definitely feels as though artists will be able to find an audience via the internet, no matter what. And even now, like, frictionless is a word that comes up a lot when talking about blockchain. And I would actually say that something like Bandcamp has made the music industry much more frictionless, if not completely frictionless, because instead of there being multiple middlemen, now there's just one middleman. You, as an artist, you can put your music on Bandcamp, sell it there. They take a cut, 10 or 15%, depending on how much you sell, and then that's it. There's just that. Whereas you talk about the traditional model, you have a big label, you have a distributor, you have a record store, and then you have the person. So, or in this case, you have a record label, or in the digital case, you have a record label, you have the digital distributor, and then maybe the person. And so I feel as though the music industry is heading that way already, is what I'm saying. And they're doing that way. They're doing it without necessarily using the blockchain. But the other thing that's important about the blockchain is that it's a distributed network. And I'm also having so what that means is that's partly why it's so solid and it can't be altered, is because it's a distributed network. Everybody's got the same information. Everyone's got access to the same information, and transactions are actually verified by the network. But when you're talking about music, again, and even if someone were to come up with a blockchain idea, it would probably be held in one company's database, one institution's database, maybe, or I'm wondering how it would become a distributed network, and therefore actually be a blockchain. But
yeah, but of course that's also part of the paradigm which have to change. So if I'm the original creator, I have to be that person who is creating the source or the first block in the chain.
Yeah.
That's my song, and I'm registering. This is my song. It's already registered, all the participants are registered, And then the next step is I'm altering this because I'm selling this right to a company. I'm selling the publishing maybe to a company. So I'm the original keeper of the first block.
Gotcha.
So,
I see what you're saying.
and then from that point, maybe there is something just like a major record label which then is attracting you and asking you for licensing. But they then, on top of this originally created blockchain of the creator, they can stop that and try to, just like they're now doing, they're stopping everything which is existing, and then they started their own blockchain. That won't happen. So that's something that there must be an original owner, even if there are several rights holders. But somebody has to start with the original block, and that should be the creator. And that's why it's possible to do this from scratch. So everybody could try to do this with a network of ideas, a network of people. And that's the fascinating story about
now
that.
That is an idea, actually, because obviously that would mean a different block for any given song or any given album or anything like that. But all it would really take is one massive band/record to kick it off, perhaps. And for instance, it was announced that Radiohead scrubbed their entire internet presence yesterday or last night or something like this. So if Radiohead were to then announce that they were going to be selling their record this way and that everything would be authenticated via the blockchain, that would be interesting.
Would be interesting, but it's also just a tiny demonstration of something which could be possible later on. But also, when I'm talking about these original, or the idea of an original keeper of something which was created, it's not new. So I think the record companies started with this idea long ago, and because with the so-called ISRC code, this was mentioned to giving, that was the idea, giving a track a universal idea which could be used everywhere. But it never happened because the company licensed this to another company, and they gave the same song in another ISRC, and then they produced a compilation, and the song became another ISRC, and so at the end they messed up. And that's the problem. The idea was there already, so that it's only working to have clean metadata with one idea which will never change. And from this, you can always follow the way this music is going through the world. And the idea is not new, but now it's possible to do this with guarantee against manipulation and all that kind of stuff. So that's new, that it's really technically possible that you can go to the complete chain without a block or without blocking. So that's.
Well, I mean, then that is at least one takeaway from this, is that it's got to start with the artists. Yeah. Do you have a question? Actually, we're going to open it up to question and answer, but go ahead.
Super interesting so far. I was wondering, are there any interesting business models or ideas using blockchain in the creative industries besides the music industry? So are there maybe some blueprints for ideas to implement in the music context?
I've heard something that people want to try out this with photos, because there's also something, photo is quite simple, because I'm the guy who's making this photo, editing this maybe, and then I can put this together with my rights of a photo to the blockchain. That is something which is maybe easier than music. And there are people working with the blockchain with really artworks, with such unique artwork, which is a unique piece of artwork. And then it's combining this with the number of existing and copies. So that is something I've heard, but it's not that really successful. So as I said, we are really, if you say it's something, it's not the dawn already. So it's just night. So if somebody is saying to you that it's already noon, don't believe them. That's just dark outside.
There is a Berlin-based startup called Ascribe. that's for artists. It's kind of like an online notary and timestamp where you can upload your artwork. And it can be your digital artwork, any kind of artwork, pictures, videos. But you can also upload the pictures of your analog artwork. So what happens is that it's an online timestamp, and then they don't do it, they don't have an exchange. They really do this notary function for now. But they work together with other companies that have a platform where you can sell your artwork and you pass on the digital rights, whether you sell it or you rent it out, by transferring your hash key. And they're here in Berlin, in Prenzlauer Berg. If you're interested, I can tell you a little bit more about that. So Ujo Music with Imogen Heap, they're like trying a prototype to have this.
Yeah, that was the prototype, right?
It's very much in a prototype stadium, and well, you're very right, we're in the very early stages of this technology, but I think that this is like really a use case and it's working. And they're also working together with the MAC in Vienna. And so these traditional museums already want to upload digitally all their artwork and register it on the blockchain. So it's happening already, but it's baby steps.
Yeah, right.
To me, the art world seems like a very obvious place to start with blockchain. Any industry where you actually need certificates of authenticity and ownership, it makes perfect sense.
Lottery is also a very good,
right.
So people are trying to do digital lotteries because the blockchain is perfect for just doing the lottery.
And but I just want to say that it's kind of not true that we're in the early stages of the blockchain. The blockchain's been around for 7 years now. And this was a point made in an article in the LRB, the London Review of Books, about the blockchain. 7 years is a long time in tech. So
it depends on. So just as an example, I was at the conference 2 months ago, and they were telling me that the self-driving car was not invented in the US. So we had in 1988 a self-driving car going from Munich to Kiel with 180 kilometers per hour, which was a Mercedes, and it was done by German engineers, and it was 1988. So at the end, we are now more than 20 years later. And also I know the history of all these MP3 kind of things. Sometimes it's really a long way that people forgetting how long does it take at the end from the really invention. And this was a paper which Mr. Nakamoto was releasing, and it was not the technology. So
well, no, the paper came out in 2008, so that's 8 years. But but Bitcoin started in 2009, at the beginning of 2009.
Yeah, 2009.
So,
but as I only want to mention, if it today we have apps, and it's maybe the life cycle of an app is maybe 2 months, but really groundbreaking technology is not. Sometimes it really takes longer than we expect. So that's why.
Well, we'll give it some time, because in fact, Bitcoin has been the only really useful application of blockchain that we've seen so far. And obviously, Bitcoin has existed in this this realm of quasi-legality. So that's probably why it's taken so long. But this author used the example of Twitter, Facebook, and other social networks, and these had become practically household usage with well before 7 years.
Within a short time, right?
So as opposed to physical technology such as the automated car.
Maybe a bad example, but.
Okay, so let's take some more questions from the audience, because I'm sure there's probably a lot of questions in your heads, because we're really talking theoretically a lot here. So.
Just wondering if you can turn the mic on. There we go. Steffen, could you repeat the comment you shared with me from South by Southwest when you said that all of the big companies were at the metadata panel? Kind of what your impression of that was?
You mean that the reason why I'm so frustrated and so negative about that? So yeah, we were also talking about that. So that was not my intention to go to Austin to get negative feedback of somebody who has a problem. But it turns out that it's really that. And I'm working on the metadata business for a very, very long time. I'm always interested if somebody is talking about the metadata problem they may have. And there were, I think, 4 or 5 panels at South by Southwest. And I think nearly all from all kinds of companies who are involved in the music industry, they were in the panel. It was 7 Digital, it was Pandora, it was Next Big Sound together with Pandora, it was The Orchard, it was Rights Holders Organization, it was SESAM from France, it was an ASCAP from America, it was a guy from Berkeley Music College, so a lot of people. And the strange thing about that, they all were talking about, we have lost. This is the metadata disaster, and we have no idea how we can solve this. And then I was thinking always, yes, but what would you do? Then always the same question came from somebody from the audience. And already somebody said, how are you going to solve this? Maybe you have to exchange your data. And every company said the same thing. We never will share my data with this company. So they were not looking into their eyes and first thinking about like that. No, it was just, no, never. And that was something I said, okay, if you won't exchange your data, then the problem will stay. That's no doubt. So they're calling themselves metadata disaster, but they're no interested in solving this. And then you can, of course, think about maybe that's part of the system, because if the system is so complicated, it's an entrance barrier for other people. Or as I think Imogen Heap was saying this, or somebody from The Guardian who was interviewing here is saying, if you don't see that somebody, that something is going wrong, you can't sue him. So if that system is that complicated, you find nothing where you can complain. So just arguing, but this was really frustrating that everybody was saying no.
Yeah, I would suspect it is actually a bit of a philosophical stance as well, or an ideological stance rather, that they're just so used to not wanting to share anything, because in all honesty, the metadata, if we're talking about some, on a basic level, if you're talking about the tags that come on your MP3, which says artist, title, year, maybe something stupid like genre, maybe the UPC code, that kind of thing. Why wouldn't you share that information? But anyway.
So for instance, there is, I think, the best music archive is existing at the public broadcast stations. So they have discovered that this is an asset for all the stations, so Germany, ARD, that they have a centralized catalog of musical data. And I think they have at the moment 7 to 8 people who are normalizing manually the metadata they are getting from the music industry.
Wow, that's a boring job.
For 30 or 40 years they are doing this. And everybody wants to have this data. And they say, no, it's our asset. We have accepted that this is an asset. And we don't get anything from you, that's why we don't share this with you. So GEMA and all the metadata companies are asking them every month, every week, and they say no, because it's our asset.
Right.
This service is called Zentraler Schallplattenkatalog. Still, so you can imagine that this was really founded in 1972, long before digitization and broadcast. So
wow,
that's an asset. So next question.
2 things. The first thing is that I think because blockchain was sleeping for such a long time is that there was no need and no problem to implement it. Like there was always an easy solution for everything, like Spotify or Apple Music provides it now for the streaming service. So all the artists, for them it's easier to go to a streaming service and losing a lot of money instead of like keeping their rights and giving it further by themselves. And the other thing is that I think it's a lack of education. So most of the artists, most of the industry people, most of everyone out there who is working in the music industry doesn't know shit about blockchain. So there should be more education, maybe starting universities, and probably the generation that is about to come or is already growing in the music industry probably knows already kind of more things about blockchain that the older guys in the music industry know. So it's the two things. There was no need to implement it, and the other thing is there is no education. Because we are all talking about something that is still in the dark.
Yeah.
So
yeah, we still have yet to truly see how it works outside of Bitcoin.
Yeah, but also, I'm not saying that we should educate every musician with the blockchain technology. So it's also not necessary to educate every musician with how the bass player of a very famous band should use Facebook. It's not necessary. As long as they're creating fantastic music, there has to be someone. It's whether he's in the band or he's a friend of the band or the management, he should know this. That's I think the most important problem a lot of musicians have, and I know a lot of musicians. They first think now that they have to be active on Facebook and doing something in social networks. Then it's better to do this than maybe go to a rehearsal room. But this stays the most important thing: creating music, and make this music as perfect as possible. And then somebody else maybe has to do this. So as long as I agree with you that they maybe should get an idea about that or find the right people, but
I do think
you can't do everything.
Yeah, it's a conversation that is happening amongst.
still the managers don't have access to the education. Not even the musicians
Yeah.
don't have to be the people, but managers or the labels don't have access to the education.
So I'm trying to do something in the metadata courses I'm doing at Pop Academy in Mannheim, but it's very difficult because it's not they don't have to be in that course. It's just freiwillig. It's an option for them, and just some people are going to them and they're looking just like bored. It's metadata.
Well, if blockchain became some kind of standard, then obviously they would bother to learn more about it. But like I said, it is a conversation that's happening amongst younger musicians who work in the digital realm.
Mike? Yeah. So Eberhard from Domus, the German artist organization for featured artists. So if I take you right, you say gathering metadata is not a technical issue at all, but it's an issue of will, that the participants are not willing to keep up with it?
Yeah. So just to give you an example, so we as an institute did the metadata normalization for Maxdome, which is a video service. And they found out that they have a problem when Netflix was coming. So Netflix announced, we will go start in Germany. And then until this, Maxdome was #1. And they will get nervous. Oh, Netflix is coming. They have a perfect recommendation engine. We have to do recommendation as well. And then they discovered, we can't do recommendation because we have not normalized metadata. How could we solve this problem? Because they have the same problem. They have, everything is coming in. Movies from their own, from ProSieben, Sat.1, from companies, Paramount, Universal, and they all have different metadata description, just like in the music industry. And everything is coming in, and at the end, nobody cares. And the only thing we did, we wrote them a metadata Bible, which took 4 months or something like that. It's an ontology you have to write. You have to observe what kind of data is coming in. You have to find out what metadata will fit, and then you have to do some machine learning with that, if it's possible, to show the people who are doing manually editing that they can edit only some stuff, and everything else is going automatically. It's possible, but you have to invest in the kind of data which is coming in and the understanding of that. As long as you don't do that, and it's really time-consuming, and it's really it costs a lot of money.
So
but
they're working
then,
with it now?
if you have it, it's working. They're fine with them. Now they have announced the recommendation technology, I think, 6 weeks ago, and they're quite happy with that. But the basic is data. Know your data, it's clean data, and then you can do something. As long as you don't have clean metadata, you can't do nothing.
Sure. here comes my actual question. This was just to reassure that I understood you correctly. So if we use our imagination and you think about we all have metadata and we use a blockchain in music industry, what would be the improvements in your imagination? So think 10 years from now, we have all that. What's the improvement? What's better in 10 years than today?
Yeah, as I said, if one musical work has the same metadata around the world and have registered services which get this metadata and also providing data back, you will learn about the usage and you will learn about your customer, and you making it frictionless when you're handling music rights with services. This is very important. So then the services are more happy because they don't have to hire an army of lawyers. They can easily send back the money as fast as possible. And if it doesn't matter who is using your piece of work in the world, all have the same metadata, and every data from usage is coming back at the centralized point. So you'll learn a lot. That's I think that would be a huge step forward.
Could I sum this up? That you say there are less gatekeepers though out there, more direct contact?
Yeah.
That's sort of what frictionless means. Like less middlemen, especially in terms of rights management, it would be helpful, and less lawyers, less more faster transactions, ultimately more money for the artist, presumably, but we have to see if that would happen. We have time for one more question.
Yeah, exactly. One more.
My name is Hans Dorsch. I'm a tech journalist, and it's a music consumers question. Say, if I want to find work of an artist on, say, Spotify, and I'm looking for a song, I find this song, and it's on an album from, say, Best Of, published in 2012, and I know that this song is older, but I can't find out how old it is, when it was published. And this is different on different services, and it's a pain in the ass. And maybe it's a nerdy problem, but it's hard. So you can't really follow an artist like that.
And what is your question?
My question is, so if
we all agree to that.
Okay, but would it, if you say you started from scratch with this record of a music of a track, would it be possible to track all those publications and on what record it was published and when it first originated in every service? Say, could Spotify use that? Could Apple Music use that?
That would be, I think, of course, the goal of such a system. And also, we are not thinking about about the new music. If you really work as a consequence on all this catalog, you have to take the old album, the original one from Sam Cooke, and you use this data, the original recording data, as the starting point for this block of this album. And then it will never be manipulated. Of course, you can add, there was a re-release 20 years later and something like that. But this work is done manually in this mentioned archive of the public broadcasters. They have this data. So they have the original recording date included in the database, and they have lined up all the different releases where this track was appearing in German catalog on CDs or something like that. They have this data, and that's exactly the problem. So I'm also looking a lot of, if you get this Spotify list, which was made especially for you on every Monday, then you're going to the track list, and then you're hearing a track which you didn't hear for a long time. Then, that's not from this best of. There must be an album. Where is the original album? Then you're going to search in the internet, and you don't get this information. then you're lost somehow. It's a nerdy problem, of course, of music lovers, but music lovers spend much more money than any other person who is consuming music free on a radio or on YouTube or somebody else. So that's the music lovers are the people who are driving the music business. That's
Yeah, can I just say to both of you, discogs.com. That's the best reference at the moment for the kind of information you're talking about.
Okay.
sometimes.
Most of the time.
Apparently, classic music has a problem like that as well, but that's out of my scope.
Then they have the different conductors and performings and
That's much harder because the copyright is expired on so many of those compositions, so anybody can record and release that music.
Okay, thank you. I think we'll wrap up here, yeah? Or you want to say a last...
well,
so
I
questions welcome. So if anybody of you has a question, it was very impressive that a lot of people are really trying to dive into this a little bit. And thank you very much for coming. Thank you, Lisa.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for coming.
Thanks. Super interesting. For those of you who are really interested in this topic, Peter has something happening in the next weeks. Do you quickly want to...
Yeah. If any of you have one of these flyers sitting on your chair, this is for the Music Tech Fest. It's happening at the end of the month. There is the blockchain word on it. What's happening there is the 23rd to 27th, we're doing a 5-day creative laboratory. So if anyone's interested in exploring this further, if you have any kind of background in tech or the industry, come see me and we can talk. Okay.